Whenever I go to a comic convention, I always go down Artist Alley, where you get to see the works of the amateur artists. Most of them are selling art prints, but every once in a while you come across somebody who's made their own comic book, and I try and pick those up. Let me show you my collection of the ones I've gotten over the years. This one is called Raycona. I got this earlier this year, here in 2023. This is a first print and a second print of issue number 1 by Raymond Wood, who goes by El Rey Madera. He's the artist. He also came up with the idea for this. Now, the words in this comic are by Robert Dixon. They started this comic book in 2020, and so like I said, this is the first issue. You can see I've got it signed by both of them. Here's the first printing, signed from 2020, and here's the second print, 2023. Let's take a look inside of this. Of course, like most, if not all of these, comic works of the amateur artists, they are a lifetime in the making, and they finally put one out. And in this case, and in a lot of cases here that I'm going to show you, they get quite a few issues out. So I read this, and it was almost completely indecipherable, but I really tried. And this is basically a battle featuring a character named King Rayconus of the country Siri, and his soldiers, which are made up of men that are mostly widowers, and they're fighting monsters. This art it's in pencil, but half of it is inked. So you can see, I guess, the characters in the foreground are inked, the ones in the background are just left in pencil. So you've got the background here, the clouds with the lightning is left in pencil, the foreground character is in ink, but then you have the pencil shading still left in. I'm assuming this is to help let things stand out and not be so cluttered, but it didn't help. That's okay. This is a first attempt, and you know what? The guy completed the comic. He did an entire comic. He got it out there, and you know what? Issue after issue, he improves. And because he completed completed the project, which is more than you can say for most people, you get to watch his improvement in real time. So, well, not real time. You get to see his improvement through his product. So it's not really fair to, bag on the artwork in the first issue. It doesn't matter. So there's barely any text in this comic. It's okay. That's the first issue. Here is the second issue. Again, I have a first and a second printing, both signed by the writers and artists, 2020, 2023. So in here, the story takes place 15 years in the past from the first issue. So they go back in time. And in fact, that's where the story stays for the rest of the series. This is all about the world of Raycona. Except in the world of Recona, they make mention of Kenyan marathoners. So, I don't know, is the world of Recona or Rayconus Earth? Or does Rayconus also have? Well, okay, so it's Prince Rayconus of the world Recona. Maybe there's a Kenya. Prince Rayconus's brother is Prince Deacon, and their father is King Franklin. He is a general and a king. There's also a character named Elf. He is the leader of the Royal Vanguard. There's a character named Exodus Bane. He is the Royal Advisor. As you can see here, it's a little bit easier to follow the art because instead of, being half pencil, half ink, it's all ink. And they've basically just left out most of the background or anything that would be behind the characters that in the first issue was in pencil. They just leave it blank here. Yes, you can see a map on the wall, so it's not entirely blank, but mostly. So, a little bit of improvement. Learning as he goes. Pretty good. And, it has more text in this issue, as you can see. There's a lot to read here, but it's very tiny text. In some places, the text gets even smaller and smaller, but that's okay. It's a learning process. Also, it's full of expletives. You know, this is an adult comic, not for children, unless your child speaks like that. Anyways, the story in here is about Ambassador Veles from Kubra, King Kubra from Kubra. Kubra is a neighboring country. His daughter is named Veles. She is an ambassador, and well, she's killed at the end of the issue. So let's go to the next one. Here's issue 3. It is inexplicably much larger, as you can see. I don't know why. And I thought to ask El Rey Madera, Mr. Raymond Wood, when I was buying it, but for some reason I didn't. I don't know. He was talking a lot. He's a good salesman. Probably why I bought everything from him. So we got this one, this time, it's a black and white cover. Maybe this was a cost-saving thing. Black and white, but magazine size. I don't know. The entire issue of issue 3 is an investigation into the murder of Ambassador Veles. And it is conducted by a character named Reginald James, the Truth Inquisitor, number 24. As you can see here on the inside front cover, and later on you'll see in the inside back cover, they are advertisements for Raymond Wood's artwork that you can buy, or you can commission him to do artwork for you. Enterprising individual, wanting to get his stuff out there. Bigger text? Well, it's magazine size. It should be bigger text. The artwork, I guess compositionally wise, maybe it's continuing to improve. You can read what's happening. That's a definite improvement. And you know what? The guy is still getting his product out there. That really means something. Like I've always said, like many others have said, it's not the most skilled or talented person that gets their product in your hand. It's the guy that can actually complete a product and get it out there. It pays to not be lazy. It pays to see something through all the way to completion. You know, it's not about being... To me, the word creative, I may have said this before, isn't somebody who has a lot of ideas. That's somebody who's imaginative. Anyone can be that. Everyone has ideas. A real creative person is someone who creates. That means you actually get a product out there. Create something. And this guy does. And here's the artwork on the inside back cover. This is my favorite. This is my favorite thing he's drawn. In fact, let me find it here. I went to his Etsy shop and I bought this. This is a coaster. It is the artwork here in full color. I love this, very shiny. This is a great product here. This is, of course, the tiger and the dragon. Now, on the Chinese zodiac calendar, I was born in the year of the tiger. And next year, when I turn 50, it will be the year of the dragon. And they're both fighting each other over the yin-yang symbol, which is perfect. Love the shiny black. Continuing to support the enterprising artist and enjoying the product. Okay, now here on the last page, this is fan art sent in. So not only is he making a product, but he has fans, and he's selling it, to people like me. But then there are also people out there that are, they're getting the story. They're getting into it. They're drawing the characters. They're sending it in. And you know what? He's printing it. Fan art submissions, print it. And the reason why he prints it is because this is very important to him, because he says it right here, and he told me in person he did the same thing. He sent his fan art in as a kid, and it was printed. It was printed right here. Let me show you. In Dale Keown's The Pit, issue 13, or it's not The Pit, it's Pit. So I grew up on... I guess I was already at the end of my teens when Dale Keown came out on the Incredible Hulk comic, and I was collecting those. I enjoyed that, and like all of the artists I enjoyed at the time, they all quit all of their books and went off to form Image Comics and basically stopped drawing, stopped putting out product. They all became overnight millionaires and hired other people to do the work for them. And we all stopped buying all of their books, and the comic book industry went belly up. Marvel filed bankruptcy, sold off all its characters, and so on. But here we go. His comic, he's continued on. This is one of the few Image artists that kept drawing. He opened his own studio, Full Bleed. This is not even from Image anymore. This is from his own studio. And here in issue 13, he printed El Rey Madera's fan art. Let's find it. There it is. Mr. Raymond B. Wood of Orlando, Florida. That's where I met him, in Orlando. There you go. Dale Keown's The Pit versus, well, it's a big purple guy. I can only guess that is the Max. But that's because I don't know any better. It could be a character from the Pit comics. I only had the first issue. It's probably all that came out in the years that I was collecting. And now I got this, just specifically for Raymond Wood's fan art. Next, speaking of Dale Keown and his Hulk comics, I found out that he got his start here in Dragonfire from Nightwind Enterprises. Dragonfire, the early years. And I happen to have these comics. I got them out of like a quarter bin or something at a convention. So just wanted to show you, this is where he got his start. Look at that. Illustrated by Dale Keown. Anyways, now we go to Raycona issue 4. This is my favorite cover of the entire series. And we are back in this issue to half pencil, half ink. I don't know. He's still experimenting, right? Got this arena battle, underground arena battle. This is about, Prince Rayconus. He's secretly fighting in all these underground fights, but he loses every time. The text, it's almost unreadable because it's so small. Maybe my eyes are just way, way, way too old. These interior pages are different from the previous ones. The previous ones were basically the same type of paper as the covers. This we're back to, well, it's not fully newsprint. It's probably like computer paper. See, this is what I'm talking about. Who can read this? You see how tiny that is? You see how tiny that is? It's ridiculous. That's just too much. Nobody should have that much to say. Forget about it. Cut 90% of that out. Make the text bigger. Can't read that. And you've got some new characters introduced. You've got Queen Helene and her daughter, Princess Zolinia. They're both from Visrimu. Now, right here we've got my favorite line of the entire series. I'm this mask, a punching bag that fights back. You know, Teddy Ruxpin. And so we get to the end, and we've got a big ad for Kablam digital printing. I went to the website, kablam.com, to see what this company's all about that he uses to print his comics. And right there on the homepage, it had an advertisement for a lot of the different comics they've printed over the years, and I recognized some from my own collection. Let's take a look. We've got the sensational Rocket Girls, issues 1 and 2. There it is, Kablam. This is a company in Orlando. But you can just send your stuff to them online, and people use this to print their comics. Very cool. In fact, I checked out the prices, and for a full-color 24-page comic book, it'll cost you $2.88. That's it. Of course, if you print a whole bunch, just like anything, you can get it even cheaper per issue. That's the way to go. Yet again, I am inspired to get my own comic out there. I got to do it. I got to quit talking about it and just do it. See? Then if you charge $3.95, you're making a profit. Here's some more. I got this from another guy at a convention. This is an actual Golden Age character named Amazing Man, but this guy got the rights to the character, licensed him or something, and put out his own comic modernized it. John Amman, the amazing man, from his own little company, Gallant Comics, signed it to me. And this Golden Age character is, I think he is the inspiration for Marvel's Iron Fist. They have the same origin story. At least that's what Wikipedia tells me. He made an action figure, which I had until I sold my toys. But look, the whole series, and you can see here's the Golden Age ones, Amazing Man Comics. In fact, I have a trade paperback that reprints these Golden Age comics. It's very cool. You can see his costume was brown and now it's blue. The action figures he put out two versions, Golden Age and Modern, and I had them both. Not anymore. But these comics were featured on the Kablam.com website, digital printing. I don't know if it's part of the deal that you put their ad in your comic, but hey, for that price, not a bad deal at all. And now the final issue so far, issue 5. Still signed, I got all of my signed. Nice idea for the cover. Split screen of Prince Rayconus and his father, King Franklin, I believe. Or maybe it's Rayconus and then the older version of him 15 years later in issue 1. I don't know. You wouldn't be a young kid and then white-bearded, white-haired in only 15 years, would you? Well, anyone remember Obi-Wan Kenobi? Okay, so in here, the lettering, so much better. Very improved. It is all big. It's all readable. They even do some white text on dark background. Still working on his game. Getting much better. In fact, the composition to all the artwork is better. Easier to read. Better drawn. Constantly improving. Still getting his product out there. In this story, Rayconus marries Zolenia, and he becomes the king because King Franklin dies. His brother, Prince Deacon, is nowhere to be found. I don't know why his older, more skilled brother doesn't become the king. They've changed the name of their land, Seri, S-E-R-I, to Siri, S-E-R-I-I. I don't know if that was a misprint or what have you, but it's got a new name. And Rayconus gets some armor called the Vorse Slayer. And apparently it's cursed armor. Everyone's afraid if he puts it on. But he does. He puts it on. And by the end of the issue, I think he destroys his entire world. Couldn't quite figure it out. I think he destroys all of Siri with the Vorse Slayer armor. Probably why they were afraid of him putting it on. Okay, so back here, Team Raycona. That's Raymond Wood and Robert Dixon. They say they're going to hit the convention circuit of Central Florida, which is exactly what they did. And that's where I met them and bought all of their products. And they say issue 6, it's going to be a Kickstarter. So I'm following their page and I'm going to support them on Kickstarter and get issue 6. I already like the cover. Look at that. Pretty nice. And this is an interior page from issue 6. You know, I wasn't done just buying their comics because I got all 5 of these signed issues for something really cheap, like $20. You can't beat that. And you know, sure, I bought the coaster off of their Etsy shop. Very inexpensive. So, you know, I needed more. Why? Because these guys are cool, and I want to support artists. So he had this drawing of Darth Vader that he picked up and showed me. This is original art. And I bought it. And because I was wearing Dragon Ball Z socks with the Goku's orange and his symbol on there, I got a Goku. You know, the owner of Raymond Wood's original art. And then I wanted one of his original characters. Half pencil, half ink. So there we go. This original art, of course, was a bit more expensive. I spent my money on his original art because his actual products, they were very inexpensive. So, you know, I'm glad glad I'm able to contribute to this enterprising artist. That takes us to 2017, where I got this comic, Solar Flare. Here it is, signed. This is from Scout Comics, issue 1. I got it at SuperCon when I saw the artist-writer there at a table. And, I saw him later, a few months later, I believe, at Free Comic Book Day in Fort Myers at my old comic book store. Now, the draw of this comic, okay, so let me tell you the man's name. James Hake is the writer-creator, and then the artist is Branko Jovanovic. I believe it was just James Hake that I met. JH17. So, yes, that's who I met. He was on. The draw of this comic is that it is set in Fort Myers, which is the town that I work in, I live close by to, and it's the comic store he was at on Free Comic Book Day. The problem is, this artwork, it's just like manipulated photographs, and so, okay, well, that's not the worst part of it. I guess it is the worst part of it, It's just manipulated photographs, but for Fort Myers, I've been in this county for, this is my 6th decade in this county. 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, now we're into the 2020s. And I can't recognize anything in this comic as being from this town. Sorry. I don't know where any of this is. Okay, so what, right? What about the story? So you don't like the art. You don't like that the draw is a recognizable place that's unrecognizable. What about the story? I didn't like the story. It's very hack. Sorry, not sorry. So this is the only thing I got from him. Apparently there are 6 issues of this, and that comprises what is called Season 1, Fort Myers. And then he did another 6 issues. That's called Season 2, Port Charlotte. That's another town a little bit north of here. And then Season 3, another 6 issues, Sarasota. That's a town even further north from Port Charlotte. I don't like it. So now we go back a few more years. This is 2015. It's a comic called H.A.T.S from Longbow Comics. And I got it signed here from Stephen Langenkamp. He is the creator of this comic. So this comic only lasts 4 issues. I have all 4. I'll show you. This is about the Langenkamp family. And basically it's a large family. And they travel around, go everywhere together. And they would always wear, kind of like 1940s style suits and hats. And they said that, everyone would ask them, are you guys a group? What's going on here? So they thought, that's it. We should form a group. So they learned some instruments, and they became kind of like a swing band that travels around and performs, and they add in comedy skits. And Stephen Langenkamp here made a comic book about them and their family, as if some of them were superheroes and had to battle dinosaurs. Now, they are from Lakeland, Florida. That's where I would go to nuclear medicine school a few years later. And this is where they live and are home-based. And the comic actually takes place in Lakeland, where there is a dinosaur invasion, at least in issue 1. It's very Jurassic Park inspired. It's a full-color comic. They got it out there. So what does HATS stand for? Well, you find out in the stories that it stands for Homeland Art and Talent Society. But at another time, they call it the Homeland Attack Tactical Squad and the Heart of America Tactical Surveillance. But, they don't always go by hats. They also go by the Longbow Family Band. But I don't know where they get Longbow from because their name is Langenkamp. So, I don't know. And with the comics, they give you their Longbow Family Band business card. They've got these paper fold-up dinosaurs On the website, it says there's a video you can watch for folding instructions, and on there, they have pictures of them at their live performances. It looks like retirement communities and what have you, or local town squares, I guess they have in Langenkamp. And it showed a bunch of elderly people sitting around with these comics, these H.A.T.S comics in their hands, and various types of fold-up dinosaurs. They had different dinosaurs than the one I've got here. The thing is, it looks like they were only active from 2015 when I met them until 2017. They tried their best for a couple of years, put out as much as they could. Very enterprising family again, and then that was it. So the website is still there, but the videos aren't working anymore. There's nothing updated on their YouTube channel. They stopped putting out the comics at issue 4, even though issue 3 advertises an issue, upcoming issue 5, The Scourge of Saskatchewan, and issue 4 has an advertisement for issue 6 coming up called Alligators. Why did it have to be alligators? But those comics never came out. But Stephen Langenkamp, the creator of the comic, he is still on Instagram posting his sketches every couple of days, so he's still out there drawing and doing his thing. I'm sure at this point, you know, the kids have grown up. They've moved on. They've started their families, and this little longbow endeavor is now a thing of the past. That takes us to 2013, a few more years back. This is The Strange Adventures of Toaster Guy by Aaron Hazori. Got it signed by him, of course. This is issue 1. And this is about, he created this comic in 2011, 2 years before I met him. This is about Toaster Guy. He's an out-of-work musician, and he's got his, basically, a sidekick here named the Marvelous Master Ninja, who's basically a nearsighted ninja that was, he was just supposed to watch Toaster Guy's house while he was out trying to make his way in the world as a musician, which he failed at. He came back. He found his entire home had been destroyed, and the Master Ninja is getting into all kinds of trouble. Toaster Guy pretty much goes along with him, so that makes Toaster Guy the sidekick in reality. And they battle a guy named the Unstoppable Watch. He freezes people with his time ray gun. This comic, it was printed by a successful Kickstarter campaign. Aaron Hazori wanted to raise $1,000 to print up this comic in 2011, and 56 backers raised $1,247, so more than he needed, and he used it to print his comic. His plan was to make 4 issues and print 100 copies apiece. And he printed them with Kablam.com yet again. Then he would go out on the road and start hitting Florida conventions, which is where he was at, and start to sell these. He hit 3 conventions. That's when I saw him. That was in 2013. And there was a guy in Toaster Guy cosplay. It was pretty great. And I bought all these comics. He's a cool guy. I like this art. I think it's drawn really well. I like the story. I think it's funny. This is my kind of thing. Got his business card here with his caricature of himself. Here's issue 3. This is the issue where Toaster Guy actually finally gets his costume that's featured on the cover. This is what he had, these 3 issues, when I met him. But then in 2014, he launched another Kickstarter. This would be for more issues of the comic. And this time he wanted to raise $3,000 because he wanted to hire a colorist to color the comics. He wanted to hire a professional letterer. And he didn't raise enough money. He only raised $1,270. But you know what? He got a colorist. He got a letterer anyways, and he was picked up by a company called Plain Vanilla Comics, as you can see here. And this is issues 1, 2, and 3 again. These are second printings, but he redrew all of the art in all 3 issues. Every single page is completely redrawn, and they are now colored, and they were professionally lettered, and he put it out anyways, even though he didn't raise enough money. Did it, and they're all from Plain Vanilla Comics. Plain Vanilla Comics, turns out this is the only comic they ever published, Toaster Guy. But when I met him in 2016, which was 3 years after the first time I met him, that's when I got these, and I was able to get his new issue, issue 4. And this time, he's got a guest artist doing the cover. But this is prior to him getting Plain Vanilla Comics, so it's still in black and white. But he did do a second printing, and it's in color, and it is professionally lettered, but he didn't redraw the entire thing. And here's his cover, signed it to me, 2016. And he also had this trade paperback that collects all 4 issues from Plain Vanilla Comics in full color with the new artwork and the lettering. It's the full thing. In fact, in the second printing of one of the issues, they accidentally reversed 2 of the pages. Here in the trade paperback, they fixed that problem. And in the back here, you will see a black and white story called Fang Fury of Frostbite. This appeared in a Taking Flight Comics anthology. The only thing I could find online about that was there was a comic store called Taking Flight. They probably put out an anthology comic from local artists, and it had this story, which I couldn't find the original comic, but it is here reprinted in this trade paperback. So there we go. When I met him at this convention, he had a full-size cardboard standee of Toaster Guy that I got a picture with. It's pretty cool. So, after trying his luck with making his own comics, this guy, he's Aaron Hazori. He's only 6 years younger than me. Always wanted to be an artist, always wanted to get his comics out there, always wanted to break into one of the companies, couldn't do it. Got an art degree. He was an art teacher of elementary school. And on the side, he put out his comics and went out and sold them. Where I met him and everything, still it wasn't working. So he decided, you know what, I'm going to try my luck. I'm going to move to Los Angeles, and I'm going to try and get a job as a storyboard artist. He took a bunch of new classes to learn all about storyboarding, got to LA. This was back in, right after I met him in 2016. He left Florida, he went out there, and he was getting interviews, he was showing his work, he was continuing to take more classes, and he spent years at it, 4 years, unsuccessfully, couldn't do it. Went back to becoming an art teacher. This time he just teaches online. And he still lives out there in Los Angeles. He never came back to Florida, never put out any more Toaster Guy stories. That was it. But I still follow him on Facebook, and as far as his spare time, he just does Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fan art that he posts regularly. It's, 90s inspired, 90s cartoon inspired TMNT. I'd rather him do his original creations. I mean, if it's just for yourself and you're posting it on Instagram. But you know what? It's not. Because he makes prints. He does prints of other type, Battletoads, Bob's Burgers. And in fact, he did get a job with the NECA toy company that puts out Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles toys for adult collectors, and he got to do packaging art in the style that he grew up on. So I guess there's a reason for it. It makes him happy. There you go. And that brings us all the way back to 2011 for the Almighty Street Team, Rise of the Iron Dragon. This is issue 0. I bought it from a man named Sean Aline, who is the inker of this book and creator of one of the characters. I met him at the Chicago Comic-Con and bought this comic from him, bought some of his art prints and posters, really liked it. I was drawn to his artwork. He was wearing the same Christopher Reeve Foundation dog tag around his neck that I had on at the time. And I saw that he had this comic book there, so while I was buying his artwork, I wanted to buy his comic book too. And this is a group of African-American comic creators. They each had their own characters, their own comics, what have you, and Sean Alleen proposed the idea, how about we put together all of our characters as a group, and he proposed it as a poster, which he made, and I bought, and they liked it so much that they put out this comic of all of their characters as this urban commando type of street team out for street justice, kind of like Daredevil or street level heroes. They put out this comic. They put out a few issues, actually. They even made a video game for PC. They had an animated movie in the works, a live action movie in the works. Big deal, right? Not big deal sarcastically, but I mean, this was a big deal. I met up with him again a few months later in February of 2012 here in Orlando at MegaCon, and got a picture with him. We exchanged phone numbers because I told him, I too was an artist, and he said, "Oh, well, hey, show me your stuff. Here, give me your email address. Here's mine. Give me a call," which I did. I called him, and he said, "Hey, I want to work together with you," and he sent me some artwork. He liked my art. But he can draw too. What he liked was that I was coloring in Photoshop, and he wasn't doing that yet. I don't know if he's learned to yet. Doesn't matter. At the time, he wanted me to color his artwork, so I did. And he goes, "Great, I love what you did. You're hired. You passed the audition, what have you." But I never spoke to him or worked on anything ever again, because what he did shortly after that was he launched a Kickstarter for his own comic. And this was in 2012. It was the first Kickstarter I ever backed. He needed $2,200 to print his first comic, Azan. He raised more than triple that. He raised $6,900. He needed $25 a piece from each person to buy one issue. $25 for one issue of the comic. And got enough backers. He earned more than triple. The comic never came out. He stopped responding to everyone. And just kind of dropped off the face of the earth. That was it. It was... I'm sure I only lost $25 on the endeavor, and it is disappointing, especially, connecting with the guy and liking his art, and I wish he had put his stuff out. But, turns out he did. He was on Instagram. He was still doing other art projects. He just wasn't doing the project that he raised money from people to put out. And he wasn't responding to anyone. So there's pictures of him there. He's still hitting conventions. He's not down here in Florida. Of course, he doesn't live here. He lives in Chicago. And the comic never came out. It's disappointing. He's got his own company called Pyroglyphic Studio. He's put out 4 of his art books, lots and lots of prints. Street Team, they ended up having an issue 1 and issue 2, the PC game and what have you. But... that was that. Was I turned off of Kickstarter? No, I was kind of hooked. I've gone on to back an additional 77 Kickstarters after that, and this one from Sean Alleen was almost my only bad experience on Kickstarter. Been, 2 others, but they were put a halt to by lawsuits and court trouble and what have you, but those guys, they're still there. They're still trying to work on it. They still update you on their court battles year after year after year. And in fact, they're still working on their stuff. There's still hope for it'll come out. And then, there's another 75 additional on top of all of these 78 total Kickstarters that I've been involved with, that all their products came out. Some of them, years later than they expected. Some of them right on time. But, it is what it is. So there we go. Convention comics. When you go to a convention, take a walk down Artist Alley. If someone's actually put out a comic book, buy it. Support these guys. Check it out. It may suck. It doesn't matter. It may be great. See ya.